wanted her ex for chaos and me for stability. When I finally said no, she escalated in the most ridiculous way possible. Watching her entitlement crumble was honestly the most satisfying moment I've had in years. Hey, Reddit. Figured I'd share something that happened over the past year. It started with me meeting this girl right after her messy breakup. And somehow I ended up way more involved in her life than I planned. At first I thought I was just being a good friend, but the way things unfolded showed me a lot about who Shirley was and who I needed to be. So let me lay this out. Hi, Chris, 29, male, decent career, decent life, never had issues meeting women. But last year, he made the genius move of getting wrapped up in a situation that wasn't really a situation. Her name's Nancy, 27, female, and if you ask her, the sun basically rises and sets for her benefit. I met her at this small get-together a buddy of mine threw. She was fresh off some messy breakup with this dude, Harry. From what I heard, he was the type of guy who thinks commitment is a 4-letter word and therapy is a scam. Apparently, has strung her along for 3 years, then dipped because he needed to find himself. In translation, he wanted to see what else was out there while keeping her in his back pocket. Classic. Anyway, when I first met her, she looked wrecked. Puffy eyes, still checking her phone every 5 minutes. Kind of the walking definition of not okay. I wasn't trying to swoop in. I'm not that guy who preys on someone when they're down. But we started talking and she instantly locked onto me like I was the last life raft on the Titanic. It started small. She'd text me late at night saying she couldn't sleep because she was spiraling. I'd give her some sarcastic pep talk like, "Congrats, you made it through another Tuesday, Gold Star." And she'd laugh, calm down, and thank me like I just solved world peace. Then I escalated. Suddenly, I'm her emergency contact for everything. Car battery dead. "Chris, can you come jump my car?" Anxiety hitting hard before representation. "Chris, can you drive me?" I can't focus. Random craving for soup because she swore she was dying from A-cold. Guess who she texted? Now, don't get it twisted. I wasn't dropping my whole life every time she snapped her fingers. I've got a job that eats up 50 hours a week. I hit the gym. I've got friends. Sometimes I flat out told her no. I'm busy. You'll figure it out. And shocker, she always did. But yeah, it still helped more than I should have. Maybe once or twice. I even bailed her out of some money issue, like covering an overdue phone bill because she forgot. Not rent, not anything huge, just enough to keep her afloat. Thing is, she always came back acting like showed me her life. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Over and over. If I had $1 for every time she said that, I wouldn't need my paycheck. Here's the deal, though. The more she leaned on me, the more I caught myself looking at her differently. And trust me, I hate admitting that because I knew damn well I was putting in way more effort than she ever would. But there were times when she'd smile at me or thank me orvant about how Harry treated her like trash. And I'd think, well, at least she knows I'm not him. My buddies called me out constantly. "Bro, she's treating you like her personal Uber therapist. You think you're building some romance here, but you're just the safety net." I shrugged them off. I figured they just didn't get it. Nancy wasn't just some random girl. She was smart, worked as a designer, funny when she wanted to be, and she could roast me back when I got sarcastic. I like that. One night stands out, though. She called me at midnight because she thought she saw Harry's car parked outside her building. I told her it was probably just some random Toyota, but she swore it was him and she was panicking. Against my better judgment, I drove over. "Surprise, no Harry, just a random car." Exactly like I said. And instead of apologizing, she just goes, "Well, at least you're here now." Then she wanted to watch a movie together like nothing happened. That's when I should have realized she was getting way too comfortable treating me like her on-call emotional support, but I didn't pull back. I told myself she needed it. And honestly, part of me liked being the guy she turned to. It felt important. Over the year, it became routine. She'd lean, I'd catch her. She'd cry. I'd listen. She'd rant about Harry. I'd make sarcastic jokes until she laughed. And in the back of my head, I convinced myself that patience was the smart move. That once she finally healed, she'd look around, see who had really been there, and realized it was me. Looking back, that's where I was dead wrong. Because what I thought was an investment, she thought was the default setting. To her, me picking up the pieces wasn't extraordinary. It was just Tuesday. Still, at the 1-year mark, something changed. Nancy seemed lighter, happier, almost like she was finally moving past Harry. She texted more, asked to hang out more, even made little jokes that felt borderline flirty. For the first time, I thought maybe my friends were wrong. Maybe this was leading somewhere after all. What I didn't know then was that I was setting myself up for the biggest slap in the face I'd ever get. But at that moment, I was blind to it. To me, things looked like they were finally turning around. Nancy started acting different. The constant 911 level emergencies slowed down. She wasn't calling me at midnight freaking out about shadows outside her apartment, or texting me in the middle of my workday about how her life was falling apart, because the barista spelled her name wrong. She still leaned on me, sure, but it wasn't as heavy. And honestly, I took that as progress. She was smiling more, laughing at her own dumb jokes, even making jokes at my expense in a way that felt playful instead of desperate. Like one day she texted me, "I just realized you're basically my supportive assistant." Normally that line would have annoyed me. But she added a winky face and followed it up with, "At least you're good looking, so it evens out." I stared at that one for a while. Was she flirting or was I overthinking like an idiot? Then came the invites. Normally it was me checking in, asking if she wanted to grab food or watch something, but suddenly she was the one hitting me up. "Hey, want to go check out that new taco place? There's a street festival this weekend. You should come." Stuff that actually sounded fun. Not just me being her emotional janitor. The vibe felt different, lighter, almost like we weren't just stuck in this endless cycle of her venting and me nodding. We were just hanging out like two people who enjoyed each other's company. For the first time since meeting her, I wasn't walking carefully around her emotions. She wasn't breaking down every other day, and I wasn't spending all my energy keeping her together. My friends noticed it too. We were out shooting pool one night, and one of my buddies goes, "So, what's up with Nancy? She actually seems normal lately. I think she likes you." I shrugged, tried to play it cool, but inside I was thinking, yeah, finally, maybe this is it. It wasn't just that she seemed happier. It was little things she said and did that made me think she was starting to see me differently. Like when we were out walking her dog and she mentioned, totally casual, "You'd make a great boyfriend. You know, you're dependable." She laughed it off, but my brain grabbed that line and pinned it to the wall like evidence in a crime show. So yeah, I started to think maybe my patience was finally paying off. Maybe I wasn't just the safe option anymore. Maybe she was healing enough to actually see me for me. Then she texted me one Tuesday, "Let's go to dinner Friday." My treat, and not our usual spot. I want to try this new place downtown. Now we had a regular haunts. Cheap sushi, burger joints, pizza places, comfort food, nothing fancy. So, when she suggested a nicer spot, I felt my heart pick up speed. This wasn't just grabbing a bite. This felt like something. I remember staring at that text way too long, trying not to overthink it. But come on. She wanted to go out of her way to a new place on a Friday night, and she said she was paying. Tell me how I'm not supposed to read into that. The rest of that week, I kept running the conversation through my head. How do I bring it up? Do I just say it straight out? "I like you. I've liked you for a while. I think we'd be good together." Or do I ease into it, test the waters, throw out a sarcastic joke like, "If I was your boyfriend, you wouldn't have to bribe me with dinner?" I went back and forth about it nonstop. One part of me said, "Don't ruin it. Just keep riding the wave and see where it goes." The other part said, "Man, you've been in this for a year. You deserve to speak your mind." And for once, I listened to that second part. Friday rolled around and I actually put effort into how I looked. Not like I showed up in a tux, but ironed a shirt, shaved, made sure I didn't look like I crawled out of bed. When I got to the restaurant, Nancy was already there and she looked different. Not different like new haircut or outfit. Different like she had that glow people get when they're excited about something. She smiled big when she saw me, stood up, hugged me longer than usual, and for the first half hour, it felt perfect. We ordered, we joked. We even teased the waiter about how long the appetizers were taking. I was thinking, this is it. This is the night. When dessert came, I knew I had to just say it. I'd been sitting on these feelings for way too long. I rehearsed the words in my head. "I like you. Not because you needed me, but because I see who you are underneath all the chaos." But right as I was about to open my mouth, she leaned in and said, "Chris, I have something to tell you, too." And the way her face lit up, the way she looked at me, I was sure she was about to say the exact same thing I was. What came out of her mouth next flipped the entire night upside down. She smiled, leaned in like we were about to share some secret, and said, "Harry reached out last week." I just sat there staring at her, waiting for the punchline. It never came. "He's been going to therapy," she continued, like this was the headline of the century. He said he made a huge mistake letting me go. He wants to try again. Now, if you've ever had someone kick the chair out from under you, that's what it felt like. But I didn't show it. I kept my face neutral, even though inside I was laughing at the absurdity. A year of me showing up, being her anchor, and here she was glowing like a teenager over the guy who treated her like garbage. She was practically bouncing in her seat. I know this must be weird for you, but he's changed, Chris. He's serious this time. He even wrote me this long letter explaining everything. I nodded slowly, taking a sip of water, so I didn't say something that would scorch the whole restaurant. My brain was running at 100 milliliter. One part wanted to flip the table and walk out. The other part wanted to toss it back and watch her dig this hole deeper. And I just want you to know, Shedded, that no matter what happens with him, I still want us to be best friends. You mean so much to me. Honestly, I wouldn't have made it through the last year without you. Best friend. That word hit harder than anything. She didn't even flinch saying it like it was some kind of prize I should be honored to accept. I finally set my glass down and asked calm as ever. "So, you're getting back with him?" She lit up. "We're going to take it slow, but yes, I think so. I know he hurt me before, but what we had was just different, passionate. I've never felt that with anyone else. Translation? Not with me. I could have called her out right then. I could have said, "Passion, you mean chaos. You mean manipulation." But instead, I leaned back in my chair, gave a half smile, and said, "Good for you. I'm happy you're happy." And that's when I knew I had the upper hand. Not because she chose him, but because she honestly thought I was going to sit there, nod along and keep being her backup plan. The rest of dinner was a blur. She kept rambling about Harry's grand apology, how he's mature now, how this time would be different. I threw in the occasional, "That's great," or "Sounds promising." But really, I was already checked out. When the check came, she tried to pull her card out and I stopped her. I got it. She gave me that soft smile, the one she always used when she knew she was getting her way. "You're the best. Seriously, I'm so lucky to have a friend like you." "Yeah, friend." I paid anyway. Felt cleaner to end the night on my terms, because if I've learned one thing, it's this. You never give someone like Nancy the satisfaction of seeing you broken. Outside, she hugged me tight and said, "I'll call you tomorrow. I want to tell you how our first coffee date goes." That's when it hit me. She wasn't telling me all this to hurt me. In her head, this was good news. She really thought I'd be thrilled to hear the man who wrecked her was back in the picture, and she really thought I'd stick around to cheer her on. I smiled back, kept my own light. "Sure, talk to you later." But inside, I knew she'd never get that calendared. Driving home, I replayed the whole night. A year of my life spent listening to her cry, patching her up, making sure she didn't collapse under her own drama. And for what? So she could glow about the guy who threw her away once already. Here's the part that stung the most. She never once considered how I might feel. Not once. In her mind, I was just the safe, reliable guy who'd always be there, whether she was single or dating or marrying Harry. That's when I stopped feeling crushed and started feeling sharp. She wasn't rejecting me because I wasn't good enough. She was running back to the chaos because that's who she is, entitled enough to think she deserves the fireworks, even if they burn her down. And me, I was done playing firefighter. I pulled into my apartment lot, sat in the car for a minute, and laughed out loud because suddenly it was clear. I wasn't losing anything. I never actually had her. What I did have, though, was a decision. And I made it right there. I wasn't going to be her best friend, her emotional crutch, her safe place. While she chased passion with Harry, she could keep all that. The next day, I'd tell her I needed space. Not an explanation, not a dramatic speech, just space. Let her figure out what that means while I got my life back. She wanted passion. She could have it. I wanted peace. And for the first time in a long time, I knew I was going to get it. The next morning, instead of giving me space, Nancy went right back to her old playbook. "Can you drive me to the pharmacy later? Harry's busy and I don't feel like Ubering." I replied, "No, I'm working." An hour later, "Can you look at my laptop tonight? It's acting weird again." "Me? No. Figure it out or take it to a shop." By evening, she was still at it. "Hey, can you come over? I don't want to be alone. I keep thinking about what if Harry ghosts me again." That tone made me laugh out loud. I texted back, "Not my problem." Talked to him about it. She didn't get it. Or maybe Sherfuse too? To her, this wasn't me setting boundaries. It was me being moody or dramatic. She kept firing off requests like she was ordering from a menu and I was the waiter. The difference now was that I wasn't serving anymore. After a few days of constant tasks and me shutting her down every single time, she decided to up the ante and show up at my apartment. No warning, just knocking like I owed her attention. When I opened the door, she went straight into it. "Okay, what is going on? You've been so distant, and I missed how things were. Did I upset you? Is this about Harry?" I leaned against the door frame, crossed my arms, and said, "This is about me realizing I can't keep being your emotional safety net. That's not friendship. That's babysitting." She blinked at me like I just spoken in another language. "Babysitting. Chris, we're friends. Friends are there for each other." I raised an eyebrow. "Are they? Because I can't remember the last time you asked how I was doing and actually stuck around for the answer. But sure, let's call it friendship." Her face twisted like I just insulted her favorite outfit. "That's not fair. I don't care about you. You're making it sound like I've just been using you." I shrugged. "If the shoe fits." She crossed her arms, copying me. "Well, you could have said no. Nobody forced you to answer the phone or come help me or listen when I needed you." That one actually made me laugh. Not the haha kind of laugh, but the wow. "You really said that with a straight face laugh. You're right. I could have said no, and now I am." Her eyes narrowed. "So what? You're just going to throw away a whole year of friendship? Because I want to try again with Harry?" "Don't flatter yourself," I said, calm as ever. "This isn't about Harry. This is about me finally realizing you don't want me as a friend. You want me as insurance. You want to play house with him and keep me on standby like a spare tire. I'm not doing that." She scoffed. "Insurance? Spare tire? That's ridiculous. You're twisting things." "No," I said, pointing at her. "You are. You're trying to spin this like I'm abandoning you. When really, you're mad. I won't keep handing out free therapy while you chase passion with a guy who already proved he doesn't give a damn about you. Her voice went up a notch. Wow, that's cruel. I thought you cared about me. I stepped aside and motioned toward the hallway. I do care. That's why I'm not letting you drag me back into this cycle. I care about myself too. And I'm done getting drained so you can feel better for 5 minutes. For the first time since I'd known her, Nancy didn't have a comeback ready. She just stood there, arms folded tight, glaring at me like I'd betrayed her, like me setting boundaries was some kind of crime. Finally, she muttered, "You've changed." I smirked. "Yeah, that's what happens when you stop being stupid." She shook her head, muttered something under her breath about me throwing everything away, and stormed out. Door slammed, footsteps faded, silence returned. I sat down on the couch and just breathed. No guilt, no second going. For once, it felt like I'd played it exactly right. The old me, the guy who thought patience would pay off, would have caved, would have reassured her, promised I wasn't mad, gone right back into being her emotional crutch. But this version of me, the one who'd finally had enough, I wasn't bending anymore. And the crazy part was, it didn't feel like losing something. It felt like gaining back control. She didn't want me as a friend. She wanted what she'd always had. The guarantee that no matter how messy things got, Chris would be there to mop it up. And when she realized that wasn't happening anymore, she got desperate. At one point, she actually texted, "You're overreacting. You love helping me. That's who you are." That one had me shaking my head. Love helping her number. I tolerated it because I thought it was building into something real. Once I understood it wasn't, the spell broke. So I finally called her out in writing. "You don't want friendship. You want a safety net, and that's not me anymore. Stop trying to dress it up as loyalty. It's entitlement. I'm done." No sugarcoating, no soft edges, just the truth. She didn't reply. Not right away anyway. But I knew it hit, because for the first time in a year, the silence from her side was louder than any crying voicemail or needy text she'd ever sent me. And for the first time since I'd met Nancy, I felt completely free. It was like my brain had been running background apps for a year, and I finally closed them all. More energy, more focus, more peace. I actually started sleeping through the night instead of waiting for my phone to buzz at 2 a.m. with some crisis. My life was finally mine again. Meanwhile, Nancy was leaning fully back on Harry. From what I heard through mutual friends, they were parading around like they were some power couple who had overcome the odds. Dinner dates, selfies, captions like, "Real love always finds its way back." It was laughable. I ignored it. Let them play house. But not even 2 months later, the cracks started showing. Same story, different season. One of our mutual friends told me over coffee, Harry bailed on her birthday dinner last week. Said he had work, but he wo-stagged at some bar with his buddies. I couldn't help but smirk. Did she really think therapy was going to turn him into Mr. Dependable overnight? Another update came a week later. She was crying at Jenna's place because Harry forgot to topic her up from the airport. Left her stranded for 2 hours. Classic Harry. The guy never changed. And anyone with half a brain could see it. Of course, Nancy didn't have half a brain when it came to him. She had that twisted logic where the worse he treated her, the more she felt like fighting for it meant it was real love. Delusional doesn't even cover it. I wasn't shocked when the texts started again. At first, they were casual, like she was pretending nothing had happened. "Hey, stranger, remember that taco place we went to last summer? I drove by it today. Hope you're doing good." I kept my replies short. "Busy? Yep, all good." She didn't like that. So the messages escalated. "Can we talk?" Things have been rough with Harry. I miss how we used to just hang out and laugh. I need my best friend back. That last one actually made me laugh. Best friend number. I was her unpaid therapist. Handyman and chauffeur. She just didn't like paying full price now that I'd shut down the free trial. Then came the day she showed up at my apartment again. I knew she would eventually. People like her can't survive without a safety net. And when Harry flaked, I was the first number on her old speed dial. It was a Saturday afternoon. I'd just come back from the gym feeling good when I heard the knock. I opened the door and there she was, red eyes, blotchy face, and holding her phone like it was evidence in a murder trial. "Chris, can I come in?" she said, already stepping past me like she owned the place. I let her in, mostly out of curiosity. She dropped her bag on the couch and went straight into it. Harry blew me off again. He promised we'd have a date night, but then he said he was too tired. And I saw he liked some random girl's photo online, and when I asked about it, he said I was being dramatic. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Sounds familiar. She ignored my sarcasm. I just don't understand why he keeps doing this, Tome. Why does he say he loves me, but then treat me like I don't matter? I could see where this was headed. She wanted me to step into my old role, comfort her, tell her she deserves better, let her cry into my shoulder, and a year ago I would have done it. But not this time. So I said, flat as ever, "Your emotions aren't my responsibility anymore." Her head snapped toward me like she misheard. "What?" I repeated it. "Your emotions aren't my responsibility. I'm not here to fix Harry's screw-ups or manage how you feel about them. That's between you and him. Her jaw dropped. Wow, that's cold. I thought you cared about me. I shook my head. I do care. That's why I'm not going to let you keep using me as Acrutch while you chase the same guy who's been showing you who he is for years. You don't need comfort. You need to stop lying to yourself. She blinked like I'd slapped her. You think I'm lying to myself? Of course, I said. You act like you don't know who Harry is, but you do. You just don't want to admit you'd rather have chaos with him than stability with anyone else. That's your choice. Own it, but don't drag me back into it. She sat there stunned. For once, she didn't have a quick comeback. Then the tears started again, and I could feel that old instinct kicking in, the part of me that wanted to comfort her. But I stayed where I was. Chris, please, she whispered. I just need someone to be here for me. No, I said simply. You don't need someone. You want me to play my old role? And that role is retired. I'm not the backup boyfriend. I'm not the safety net. I'm done. She stormed out, and I didn't stop her. As soon as the door clicked shut, I felt it again. That same wave of freedom I tasted when I first pulled away. But this time, it was stronger, because Dick knew I'd just broken the cycle completely. Nancy could run back to Harry. She could run to a dozen Harrys, but she wasn't running back to me. And for the first time, I wasn't just free, I was in control. I thought that was the end of it. Nancy had Harry. I had my piece. Let the credits roll. But people like Nancy don't fade into the background. They hate losing their spotlight. It started with the predictable text. Hey, I've been thinking a lot. I owe you an apology. Ignored it. Then another therapist made him realize how much I took you for granted. Can we talk? Ignored again. Finally, a third one. Please, just coffee. I miss having you in my life. That one made me laugh. Not because it was funny, but because I could practically see her typing it with Harry passed out on her couch after blowing her off again. The desperation just leaked through the screen. I didn't respond. But the thing with Nancy Isolance doesn't mean stop. It means try harder. A week later, she found a new angle. She must have seen through mutuals or social media that I'd started seeing someone. Nothing serious, just casual dates with Diane, a vet I'd met through a hiking group. Diane was the kind of woman who didn't need rescuing, independent, funny, and the type to roast me if I took myself too seriously. It was refreshing. Apparently, that didn't sit well with Nancy. Friday night, Diane and I were at this little Italian spot downtown. Small place, cozy vibe, nothing fancy. We just ordered pasta when I heard the voice I least wanted to hear in that setting. Chris. I turned my head, and yep, Nancy, standing there in a trench coat like she was about to interrogate me. She didn't wait for an invite, just walked up to Thedable, plastered on a smile, and said, Wow, so this is where you've been hiding. Diane looked between us, eyebrows raised. I kept my tone even. Nancy, this isn't the time. But Nancy wasn't here to be reasonable. She pulled out the empty chair at our table and sat down like she'd been expected. I just needed a chance to talk to you. We have so much history. It felt wrong not to clear the air. Diane gave me a look like, you better explain this. Before I could, Nancy leaned forward and launched into her performance. Chris, you can't just raise me. You were there for me every night when I was falling apart. You used to drive across town to calm me down, remember? You told me I could always count on you. She said it like she was reading out a resume of services I'd provided. I felt Diane stiffen next to him. This was exactly NY's game. Make me look tied to her. Make the new girl feel like an outsider. I didn't take the bait. I leaned back, completely calm, and said, Nancy, what you're doing right now. This is exactly why we're not friends anymore. You don't respect boundaries. You just show up and expect the world to revolve around you. She blinked like I'd slapped her. I'm just telling the truth. We were close. You cared about me. Yeah, past tense. I shot back. And don't get it twisted. What you're describing wasn't friendship. It was me playing therapist while you ran back to Harry. And now you're doing it again, trying to sabotage my night because you can't stand not being the center of attention. Diane's lips twitched, trying not to smile. Nancy, on the other hand, looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. You're being cruel, she snapped. I came here because I still care about you. Maybe you're just in denial about caring for me, too. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Nancy, denial would mean there's something to deny. There isn't. You didn't want me when you had me. You don't get me now just because Harry treated you like a Dormitagon? I'm not the backup plan, and definitely not the consolation prize. Her face turned red, and for a second, I thought she was going to throw her water glass at me. She stormed out, heels clacking against the tile like gunshots. A couple tables turned to look, whispering. I didn't care. Diane tilted her head, smirking at me. So, ex-girlfriend? I shook my head. Worse ex-safety net. She laughed, the tension breaking instantly. Well, you handled that better than most guys I know. Cool as a cucumber. I shrugged. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that feeding drama only makes it grow. Cut it off. It dies on its own. We went back to our dinner like nothing happened. And for once, I wasn't carrying any weight. No guilt, no second guessing, no what-ifs, just relief. Walking out of their restaurant later, Diane slipped her arm through mine. She's going to regret losing you, you know. I shook my head. She never had me. Not really. That night, lying in bed, I realized NY's stunt had backfired completely. She thought crashing my date would shake me, maybe even make me fold and start playing her game again. Instead, she made herself look entitled, unstable, and delusional in front of the one person she probably hoped to scare away. And me, I looked like the guy who had it under control. For the first time, I didn't just feel free, I felt untouchable. I thought that was the grand finale. Nancy made a scene. I shut her down. Curtain closes. But if there's one thing I learned about her, it's that she doesn't accept endings unless she writes them herself. 2 weeks later, Diane called me one night, kind of amused. "Hey, so your friend Nancy messaged me." I froze for a second. "What did she say?" Diane laughed. "Oh, nothing crazy. Just some long dramatic DM about how you and her have all this history, how you were basically her rock for years, and how I should be careful because you'll always come back to her." I rolled my eyes so hard I swear I almost sprained something. Of course she did. Can I guess? She mentioned midnight calls, how I was her shoulder to cry on, how no one knows her like I do. Diana grinned word for word. Honestly, it read like a bad soap script. Here's the thing about Diane. She didn't get rattled. She wasn't threatened or jealous. She just found it pathetic. And that told me everything I needed to know about the difference between the two women. Nancy thought she was throwing a grenade. Diane thought it was a joke. I texted Nancy later that night. "Don't ever contact Diane again. Whatever fantasy you're spinning, it's embarrassing. You lost your place in my life. Accept it." She didn't respond, which was the smart move, but I knew her silence wasn't peace. It was regrouping. Sure enough, a week later, we both ended up at a mutual friend's barbecue. Small crowd, backyard vibe, burgers and beers. I saw her across the yard and could practically feel the tension. She looked rough, like Harry had either bailed again or done something worse. Honestly, I didn't care enough to ask. At some point, she made her way over. "Chris, can we talk?" She asked, voice low, like she wanted to keep it private. "Nope," I said, not even looking up from the plate I was fixing. "Not interested," she huffed. "So that's it. You're just going to pretend like we never had anything after everything I shared with you?" That's when I turned to her loud enough for a couple people nearby to hear. "Nancy, what we had wasn't a relationship. It wasn't even a friendship. It was me giving and you taking. That's all. And you trying to poison things with Diane just proves it." She flushed, trying to keep her composure. "I was just looking out for her. She doesn't know the real you." I laughed. "No, she knows the real me. That's why she's still here. The problem is, you only ever knew the version of me that existed to clean up your messes. That guy's gone and you can't handle that." Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again like she wanted to argue, but didn't have the ammo. Finally, she just muttered, "You're cruel." I shrugged. "Nah, I'm just done." And I walked away, leaving her standing there in front of everyone. No big scene, no yelling, just a clean dismissal. The kind that stings more than any fight ever could. That was the last real interaction we had. The funny thing is, while she was spiraling, my life was leveling up. Work promoted me to senior project manager. I moved into a house I actually liked. Not just an apartment with thin walls and neighbors who thought midnight vacuuming was normal. Diane and I started spending more time together. And for once, I felt like I was in a relationship that was actually balanced. She didn't need me to fix her, and I didn't need to beg for her attention. She chose me every day, and that's all I ever wanted. Sometimes I thought back to those late nights with Nancy, the calls, the drama, the way I kept thinking patience would pay off, and instead of feeling bitter, I just shook my head. That wasn't love. That was me mistaking obligation for affection. That was me confusing being needed with being wanted. The last little cherry on top. A few months later, a mutual friend mentioned that Harry was officially gone again. Apparently, he'd moved in with some new girl and left Nancy high and dry. Shocking, I know. The same guy who bailed before bailed again. And guess what? She didn't come running back this time. Probably too embarrassed. Or maybe she finally realized the safety net wasn't there anymore. Either way, I didn't care. Because here's the truth. I stopped waiting to be chosen. I started choosing. And the moment I did that, everything changed. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked in this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube, this video deserves to blow up.